The best financial decision that I've ever made was choosing to live below my means. And one of the biggest steps that I had to take to make sure this becomes a reality was relocating from a shared apartment to go and stay in the township. Here's the thing, I was doing quite fine. I could afford myself, I could pay my bills, pay my rent, be able to save. I think I was comfortable. But in me being comfortable, I was unsettled with the fact that I wasn't getting closer to my goals. Knowing that, okay, I am living in comfort right now, but I am not getting closer to my goals or financial freedom, that just made me uncomfortable. I have dreams, I have ambitions. So I had to sit down with myself and ask difficult questions. Where do I want to see myself? And if I continue living like this, will I even get there? And in that moment, I realized that as much as my lifestyle was maintainable or sustainable, it was quietly holding me back. And I'm not gonna lie, moving wasn't easy. It wasn't fashionable to do so. I faced a lot of criticism, even from a family member. It really wasn't easy, but it had to be done. I had to forget about everyone else and focus on me and focus on the things that I wanted. I had to make financial decisions that aligned to my goals and pushing me closer to financial freedom. I had to align my money with what mattered the most to me, not to anyone else, but to me. And you know what? That decision forced me to face everything all at once. It made me crystal clear about my goals and the things that I wanted. It tested my mindset and how I see money. It sharpened my awareness and it challenged my numbers. I had to recalculate, cut on certain things to make sure that my money works for me instead of just disappearing. And more importantly, it pushed me into creating a plan, an escape plan to start getting closer to financial freedom. So in today's video, I want to take you through that whole process, not just the decision, but the whole framework that I used. Goals, mindset, awareness, and the numbers, because that is what changed or helped me, and hopefully it will help you too. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, I am Wita Poramuntu, but you can call me Boiti. Welcome to my space. I create content on personal finance. This is a platform that I'm going to use to share my journey, the mistakes, the lessons, and everything that I'm learning along the way. So if that is something that you are interested in, please hop on to Ulweluweka Boiti by hitting that red subscribe button. See to do as we learn and grow together. Now let's dive into part 2 of living below your means. This is more like a crash course and a step-by-step guide to try and help you diagnose your situation, spot the leaks, and be able to build a mini escape plan for yourself. Now here's the thing, we talk a lot about living below your means and we often say, oh, cut on this, do that. But if you're going to give someone tips without knowing their situation or understanding their situation, then you're not helping them in any way. It's like you're making so much noise. Giving someone tips without knowing their situation is like giving someone medicine without knowing what is it that they're going through. The same way that when you go to a doctor, they need to find out what exactly it is that is wrong with you before they can suggest medication. It is the same thing with money. You need to have a diagnosis. You need to understand where the problem is. And one of the ways to do this is by understanding that there is a relationship, or understanding the relationship between your goals, mindset, awareness, and the numbers. That is the foundation. Once you have that and that is clear, only then can you come up with a plan, and only then will the tips make sense and stick. Now I want you to grab a piece of paper and divide it into 5 sections like this. So you're going to have the first part on top and then the 4 different squares on like the rest of the paper. Now let's get right into it. Step 1. Destination, your goals, knowing exactly what it is that you want and where you want to go. And obviously we all have different goals. You know what you want, you know what is it that you are working towards. So on that piece of paper, I want you to write 2 short-term goals and 2 long-term goals. If you don't have goals, this might be an opportunity for you to set those goals for yourself. Write the short-term and the long-term goals and use the SMART method. S, specific, M, measurable, A, achievable or attainable, and then T, time. If you have a highlighter, make sure that you highlight them and they stand out just there on top of your page. We'll check against them as we go along. Everything else, your spending, your habits, these are supposed to push you closer towards that goal instead of pushing you further away. Now that we understand and you have an idea of your goals or things that you want for yourself, we move over to step 2, the mindset, the lens for your money. How do you see money? How are your spending habits? Are you spending for value, for validation, or for comfort? And sometimes it can even be from a point of trauma, but I'm not going to focus so much on this. It's a very deep topic, so that needs a video on its own. But you need to understand, why exactly am I spending? You need to understand your mindset. Think about the last 6 purchases that you made. Write them down, and I want you to think thoroughly about this. Ask yourself, why did I spend on this? Was it for comfort? Was it for trend? Was it for validation? Next to each purchase or spending, I want you to write, for value, write V, validation, VL, comfort, write C, or trend, write T, or trauma, TR, depending on or why you actually spent that money. And you need to think deeply about this. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it, but think deeply, understand why exactly you made those purchases. This activity helps you see the hidden patterns in your spending. It also exposes you. It makes you realize the things that you did not know about yourself. Maybe you have an ego problem because most of your spending is because of ego. Like, oh, I can't do this and that because of how you see yourself. Once you know that, it's going to be easier to go on with the other steps because you know what the issue is or how is your mindset, because that is where change begins. It begins by you transforming or changing your mind and learning new things. Right, now we move over to step 3, awareness. This is basically knowing what exactly is coming in and where exactly your money is going. You can't fix what you don't know. And if you don't see or know where your money is going, then you can't control it. You can't control something that you cannot see. You need to be aware. You need to see and know your numbers. Right. Awareness is the bridge between the habits, which are a result of the mindset, with the financial reality, which is the outcome. And this is a step that drains a lot of people. This is a step that a lot of people just try to run away from. So every time I have a coaching session with my clients, I know when we get to this step, it is something else. It is always an issue. It is that step that is considered to be draining. And to be quite honest, if you don't track your money or don't know where your money is going, then it is actually difficult for you to control it. So it is important for you to track your money and know where your money is going so that you can be able to try and control. To get your 3 months bank statement and go over it. So you're going to calculate the total income or the income for every month. So you basically have an idea of what is coming in. And then you're going to move over to your fixed expenses. But obviously, under your fixed expenses, you have different categories. And you're going to do the same thing with your variable expenses, calculate the total, and check your debt as well as your savings. So you're basically going to get a total for each month to see or check the trends, because you can't necessarily base it on 1 month. I think 3 months makes much more sense for you to try and understand or see the trends, right? I feel like going through your bank statement is just too much. Maybe try logging onto your banking app and try to calculate or track from there. I'm not sure about other banks, but I do know with Capitec, it kind of categorizes your spending for you, so you can go on to each category and check. Sometimes they misplace or allocate incorrectly, but obviously as you go through every category, you should know that this was not supposed to be here, it's supposed to go there, and you can do your calculations accordingly. As you do this, I want you to highlight all those things that stood out the most or shocked you the most. I remember there was a time where I was having a conversation with this guy. One thing about me, given the opportunity, I will talk about budgeting and finances. Child, I will talk about finances. I didn't know that guy, but we were just having a conversation and we were talking about money. So he was just telling me that he's trying to stop drinking alcohol because he's been spending so much money and whatnot. He knew that he was spending so much money on alcohol, but he was just not aware or did not know how much he is spending. We went through his app, and when I tell you the shock on his face, there was a month where he spent close to 10,000 just on alcohol. And he did not realize this because he was not tracking his money. He was just spending. He knew that, okay, I am spending so much money, but he was not aware. He did not know, like, it was deeper than he thought. And at that point, he was like, yo, the look on his face, he was so shocked. And that's the whole purpose of this step. You need to see all those things. That's like what realize or what find out that you need to find out. Once you've highlighted all these things, I want you to check them against your goals. Remember your goals there on top. Ask yourself, is this getting me closer to my goals or is it pushing me further away? If you are spending so much money on something that does not even bring a value or add value to your life and you're spending so much money, then it is clearly pushing you away from your goals. You might not be spending on alcohol, maybe it's clothes, or sometimes maybe it's just takeaways. So this step will just show you those things and make you aware of what is happening in your finances. Once you are aware of your spending, now you need to analyze the numbers. What you found in step 3, this is what you are analyzing in step 4. Basically trying to see if you are living below or above your means. Are you getting closer to your goals or you're going further away from your goals? And these are a few ways to tell if you're living above your means. High fixed expenses. Now, I want you to calculate the total for your fixed expenses and divide it by the income that you are getting. If that is more than 50%, that might be a red flag. You might just be overly committed. And the other thing is tiny or no save at all. So you're going to take how much you are saving divided by your total income. You're just looking at what you are saving in comparison to what you are getting. It's not about the money, but it is about the ratio. Because sometimes I get people that feel like, oh, I'm only able to save 100 Rand. But when you look at that 100 Rand in comparison to what they are actually getting, it makes a huge difference. It is something. So don't be discouraged. And you're going to see people, I see them all the time on TikTok. Oh, I saved 100,000 in 6 months. You are going to see those people. But do not let that discourage you now because you are only saving 100 Rand. Maybe their income allows them to save that much. I think a decent amount to save is like 10% of what you are getting. And obviously I am not an expert. That is just my opinion. 10% is a good amount. And then the other one is lifestyle creep. If your expenses increase every time that you get more money, for some reason, every time that you get an increase or you get money that you did not budget for, you just want to spend, you just go crazy, you might just be in the danger. Because that means regardless of how much you can get, you will always have a problem because as the income increases, then your expenses are also increasing. There are people that are probably just like struggling. It is tough. And at times there is a need for them to just, increase their expenses just a little bit. It is understandable. I mean, inflation is crazy. So there is absolutely no need for you to increase your expenses just because your income increased if you are living just fine. Right, so those are some of the things that you can look out for, and I'm obviously not going to go into depth of everything and go through all these things. Those are the things that we can do on my one-on-one coaching session. We can just work through that and find a solution. Once you've done all these 4 steps, now you begin to put everything together. Based on everything, you'll be able to tell where exactly you stand. Is your mindset reckless? Are you spending just to impress? You don't see money as a tool to create more wealth for yourself? Or maybe your numbers are genuinely tight and perhaps you need to get more income. If you were not aware before, now you are, and the truth hits hard. It's not always about the money, but it is about understanding the link between all these four things. So I'm going to give you some of the practical solutions or things that you can put in place once you've actually put everything together. Instead of just trying to cut costs, look at your habits.
A typical example would be you spend so much money on takeouts as a result of laziness. So you would rather buy takeouts instead of taking time to cook. And to be quite honest, sometimes it's not even laziness, but life gets so hectic. You get home, you're tired, you have some deadlines, and you don't even have the time to cook. And a lot of people resort to takeaways, but that can also be prevented if only you can build the habit of meal prepping. So instead of saying, I am going to cut down on takeouts, approach it differently. Pick a day or two where you're not so busy and dedicate 2 to 3 hours to meal prepping. I do my meal preps on Sunday. That way, even if something happens or you come back home tired, you don't have the time to cook, you already have a meal that is ready. So you don't have to spend money on takeouts.
2, stop trying to cut on everything. Choose intentionally what matters the most to you. If there are certain things that bring you joy and the things that make you feel alive, you can focus on that and try to cut on things that don't necessarily bring value to you. Because remember, the aim is not to cut your life, but it is about trimming the mindlessly spending energy or that reckless spending. Focus on the small wins instead of drastic cuts. Don't try to be perfect overnight, but do it one step at a time. Just focus on the small repeatable wins. Maybe skip one non-essential or delay one non-essential a week. Trust and believe you me, these small wins build consistency, and over time they create a mindset of control over your money. Number 4, is it 4 or 5? I don't know. Tracking your spending. It is important for you to know exactly where your money is going. So just have a little notebook and have a set time for your money check-ins. Let's say every Friday. Every Friday, you're going to take 15 minutes and just do a check-in with your money to see, okay, I spend this much on this, I spend this much on that. The more you are aware of everything that is happening, it just makes you or pushes you to make certain changes in your life or to make certain changes in your budget. So just have a little notebook and have a set time where you check in with your money. Last but not least is increasing your income. Sometimes cutting is just not enough. So obviously, if there isn't much more to cut or there isn't enough money, then you need to try and increase your income. And there are so many ways that you can try to increase your income. Even if you are getting 50 rand, that 50 rand can go a long way. No amount of money is too little to boost you. So living below your means isn't always about depriving yourself, but it is about creating freedom, stability, and a place for your goals. You're basically trying to push yourself to get closer to financial freedom. So if you're going to use this time to make decisions that might make you a little uncomfortable, but you know that in the future you will be comfortable, or as much as this decision is making you uncomfortable at that time, it will push you closer to your goals and financial freedom, then yes, why not? I know this might be a bit overwhelming for some, and if you felt like this was a bit overwhelming or you need someone to hold you by the hand and help you step by step, please feel free to send me an email. I will leave my email address in the description box, so do send me an email so that we can go through this together. Remember, the best tips in the world won't help if you don't understand your problem. So always diagnose your problem. Start with the framework. Take the first steps today and let us build a life of financial freedom and intentionality. I hope you found value in this video. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, share this with your friends. Until then, I will see you in my next video. Bye.